Dungeon makers! Dungeon makers! Hello everybody, welcome back to the table. My name is Devin.
And I'm Liz.
And we are BoardGameHype. And today we're bringing you a preview of the two-player strategic tile-laying game of dungeon building, Dungeon Makers by Fun Men Games.
Woo!
I have to say thank you for Wes for providing this prototype for us to preview. The campaign is going to be launching here in the next month, maybe?
April/May is a goal launch.
So who knows when this video is going to come out. I don't know if it's going to be live right now. You don't know.
Spring 2022,
Spring
everybody.
2022. But Dungeon Makers.
Not to be confused with the dungeon crawl.
Yes. Keynote, not a dungeon crawl. So if you're going for dungeon crawl, get out of here.
There is no crawling here.
No, there's crawling. There is a little bit. The minions like to crawl a little bit, but enough silliness. Let's go to some flavor, tell you a little bit about the game.
Here we go. We are going to build a diverse and danger-filled dungeon, scoring points based on creatures, puzzles, traps, and more. The dungeon maker who builds the best dungeon by scoring the most dungeon points wins the warlock's favor and the game.
That darn warlock, he always wants those favors. Why do warlocks always want favors? I don't get it.
Because they're warlocks.
But there's just so many.
They've got war on lock.
Tell us a little bit about the setup of the game.
That's pretty good, right? Okay. So setup for this game is actually incredibly simple. The hardest thing is finding your starting tiles, which...
Oh, you got it?
That is...
The starting tile has a little circle in the middle.
That corresponds to your meeple color.
Yes.
So cute, so cute. Otherwise, you are going to each get a... This is a turn...
Action tile.
Turn tracking tile situation.
Turn tracking tile.
You have a turn sequence / reference card with details.
Woohoo!
And then you have a tiles / icon
This
card
is going to be your...
that is wildly valuable.
Yes.
10 out of 10 would recommend. And you get these adorable meeples, which actually have like little patterns on them.
Yeah, they got...
So they're
It's
super,
kind of tough to
super
see
cute.
them right now, but this is all prototype form right now.
Yep.
There's
So
a few things that
all
might
art
change.
might change. Everything is flexible.
Yeah.
Don't get attached.
Yeah, don't get attached.
So what you're going to do is you pull out your starting tiles. You're going to make 3 piles of tiles to draw from. Get out your scoreboard and your cubes.
Whoop.
And that is pretty much it. We have these laid out solely to show
you
all of you
a little bit about the tiles.
Yes, but this is not how you would set a game. So,
Yeah. So and then this game also has a solo mode as well. This channel doesn't cover solo modes, but if you did want to play solo, then this is a good game for you to play.
yes.
So let's go about like a little bit over the objective and then like what the tiles are.
Yeah,
themselves.
for sure. So your goal is obviously to build the dungeon that's going to score you the most points with the warlock, right? So with that being said, there are 8 types of tiles that you will see outside of your starting tile. So each tile is labeled with a little letter in the bottom right-hand corner. So that is really, really valuable. In the rule book, there's a great explanation on each one, so you'll just kind of breeze through it. So you have a tunnel tile symbolized with a T.
With the tunnel tile, key thing, your minions do not stop in the tunnels.
Right.
So if you want to have your minion go all throughout your play area, then you place a lot of tunnels to try and sneak your way through.
Yes. And then you've got, and they have like brown colored edging, which we can show in a little more detail. The next ones we'll talk about are chamber tiles. They have gray colored edging. And these are worth 1 point if
At the end.
your minion is in it at the end of the game. Your minion.
And yeah, I was gonna say specifically your minion. Your opponent is allowed to place minions on the opposing team. So if they do that, then you don't get those points.
And then we have a maze tile, which would be M. So looks like a maze, pretty self-explanatory. They have brown colored edging. And something that is cool about them, obviously, is it really lets you I would say change directions and maneuver within your dungeon as you're building it.
Yeah. Yeah, and
then actually with those, so you get a point immediately when you play a maze tile.
When you move it, you also get a point.
Yes.
I will say with this game, if you like tile laying games with a ton of point scoring opportunities,
this is it.
Yeah, this is gonna be it for you. That's the first thing I noticed when we played. It's just like, wow, the amount of scoring you can do in different ways is super cool because you can fine tune your strategy.
So many different strategies you can pursue and still be successful, which is super cool. Otherwise, we've got water tiles, which they are marked blue around the water, as you would expect. They're marked with an X. When you place it, you immediately get a point.
And they're marked with an X because M is already used, and so he didn't want to I wanted to distinguish that. So you gain 1 point per water tile when placing. So if you have like 3 other water tiles connected, you get a point for each of them.
Yes, important distinction. Thank you. And then we have a puzzle tile, which is like here's an example. They are marked with a red colored edging. They're worth 2 points when placed. Plus, you get an additional 1 for each pathway connecting to another puzzle tile. So if you build like just a whole little cube of puzzles, you'll make a lot of points.
And then you get 1 point when you move that as well.
Yes. And then you have chasm tiles that are marked with a Z. So these can be placed anywhere in your dungeon adjacent to another tile. They don't follow the normal tile playing rules of like, hey, if you have a pathway that's already going, you have to continue it. You can't just like randomly put a pawn there.
Yeah. So like for example, you have to place these like this. You can't place it like this or like that, anything like that.
Think like you're building a road, logically here, people. Except when you play a chasm. Because they can go anywhere. They earn 1 point for each pathway leading to it, and you can't be placed onto it or travel through it. So essentially, you've made yourself a sinkhole, a chasm,
And then, so then at the end of the game, you also score 3 points for each minion in your dungeon, and then you lose 5 points for every minion of your opponents in your dungeon. And so really this entire game there's not a whole lot of take that, which is probably good for a lot of people. I know a lot of people really don't like the take that.
Something that's really cool about this game is what you can do on your turn is determined by this little tile
the action
here,
tile.
the action tile.
It's like the main mechanism too.
It is. So when you start it and you have this blue side up, that means you place a tile. Otherwise, you rotate it, and then if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when you do this, you place a tile. Then you're going to flip it every turn. That is one thing we did get clarification, because we did it wrong the first time, and we're like, oh, what the heck?
How does this work? This works so much better now.
And then, it works 10 times better by doing that. So you can place a tile, then you're going to flip it over. If you want to race, which is a way to score, then you can also use this action in the middle again to just place another tile.
Right.
And then when you do it, you flip back over. So you could just place race your opponent. I wouldn't do that.
It's going to be hard to place your meeples that way.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to do that. So the cool thing about this tile is when you place it down, you can only use the white over here, because then you have to rotate that tile over.
Yes.
So what you're going to do is you're going to rotate it which way you want to do. So this one is, I believe, placing a meeple. Then you can rotate it this way.
Look, there's a great
Oh yes, the auction details. Yeah, and then this one allows you to move your minions. So if you have an opponent's minion in your chambers or whatever, you want to get rid of it. You want to eat it. So you essentially can play this to move your dude if you have tunnels, and then get it out of here. And just like that.
And when you do that, you sacrifice yours and you sacrifice theirs.
Yes.
So it's like a
one for one
situation.
Kind of thing. So yeah, and then the other actions allow you to move a tile in your dungeon or place a block, which is what these are, and you get -2 points for every block in your dungeon. And then, yeah, that's...
Yeah, I think the last thing we've got to talk about is just symbols that happen on the cards outside, or on the tiles outside of normal things.
Yeah.
So there are additional ways to earn points. So if you didn't have enough points already, there is still hope.
Just wait, there's more.
Just wait.
$9.99.
So there are little treasure chests, which at the end of the game, the person with the most gets 5 points. And then there are little staircases. You gain 1 when they're placed in a dungeon. They have little, they're like maroon colored animal symbols, I would call them. Like creature symbols.
They're like creatures, monsters.
For 2 each, plus up here, you get 1 point. So that is great. And then there are traps. There's 5 kinds of traps. For every set of traps, you get points. So very cool ways, again, to add to that strategy factor.
Yeah, so final thoughts. Dungeon Makers is very much a strategic tile laying game.
Yes.
You know, when he says strategy, you are choosing which strategy you're trying to go for, and you can score all sorts of wacky and cool ways. And so I really like those kind of games where it allows you to score as many as you want.
Yeah,
so,
it definitely gave me like when you play chess and there's so many strategies you can follow. It's like that versus like a checkers vibe where it's very like we do this to do this to do this to do this. This is much more like, hey, how do I want to play this game? How do I want to build my dungeon?
Yeah, and then to end the game, you have to have a 5x5 grid, I believe it was.
Yep, 5x5 and or neither player can place
an action
tile.
or place a tile. Once that happens, then you're gonna score. Whoever has the most points wins the game. And that is Dungeon Makers. My name's Devin.
And I'm Liz.
And we are Board Game Hype, and this has been a preview. What do you guys think? Are you gonna be backing this? We're gonna leave the Kickstarter link in the box below.
Yes.
So be prepared to meet your
Dungeon
Makers. We're out of here, folks. We'll see you next time. Dungeon Makers! Dungeon Makers!